This is the Windy Day block. It's 12-inch finished. Here's a diagram. The units are rectangles, squares, and 3 sets of 4 flying geese units. Here's what they look like block to block. And this is a 6 by 6 grid. Since this is a 12-inch block, each square in this grid finishes at 2 inches. Now let's look at the patches. Patch A is the rectangle. It's 2 by 4 inch finished. So we'll cut 4.5 inches by 2.5 inch pieces. And we'll need 4 patches from the background. Here are the AccuQuilt dies for all of these patches. Patch B is a 2-inch finished half square triangle. We cut squares at 2 7/8, and we cut it in half once on the diagonal to make 2 patches. These are the sky portion of the flying geese unit. For 3 sets of 4 flying geese, which are 12 total flying geese, you'll need 24 patches. Or if you're using the 4 at a time flying geese method, you will need to cut 12 squares. And that means you cut these squares, but you do not subcut them. You'll use the squares for your 4 at a time flying geese. Patch C is a 2-inch finished square. We cut 2.5 inches, and we'll need 4 patches of the background. And patch D is the geese part of the flying geese. We cut 1 square 5 1/4 inches, cut it in half twice on the diagonal, and we'll get 4 patches. We'll need 4 patches of each of the 3 different fabrics. If you're using the 4 at a time method, you will need 1 square from each fabric. And 1 square is 5 1/4 inch, and do not subcut it. We're going to make the flying geese unit, so we'll do 3 sets of 4 at a time flying geese, and then we'll put the block together. Here are the fabrics I've chosen. The squares and the rectangles just go in the block. And these are my squares for the 4 at a time flying geese. So this is 1 set of 4, 2, 3 sets of 4, and each one of these will get 4 of the small squares. So these are the sky, and the accent fabric is the geese. The next segment will show you how to do flying geese 4 at a time. Now for the flying geese 4 at a time, you're going to cut 1 large square, and this will be the geese. That's the triangle in the center. And you'll cut 4 small squares, and this is the sky. It's the 2 triangles on the outside of the flying geese unit. You'll take the small squares, the sky, and mark 1 diagonal line on each one. Then you're going to take 2 squares and line up the corner of the large square, and then the opposite corner of the large square. So you make sure that the edges are even, and this diagonal line lines up. And you're going to stitch 1/4 inch on either side of the diagonal line. Now you're going to cut on the diagonal line that you drew. And you're going to press these toward the dark side, the darker fabric, which in this case is this direction. And then cut off the nubs. Now here we have the 2 pieces. They're pressed to the dark side and the nubs have been taken off. Now you're going to take your remaining triangles, line up this edge like this, and line up the same thing over here. And you're going to stitch, you know the drill, 1/4 inch on each side of the diagonal line on each one. Now once you've stitched, you're going to cut it in half on the diagonal line that you drew. And I wanted to show you this closer. If you can see where this line of stitching meets the edge, this little intersection here of the top fabric and the bottom fabric, your stitching should be right at that point on both sides. Here are all my 12 flying geese, 3 sets of 4, my squares and my rectangles. If we look at this diagram, I'm going to cover up this part and this part, and you'll see we have this unit here. It has all three of the triangles, and it has a square and a rectangle. And if we rotate this like this, we have the same unit here. It's just rotated. And then the same thing with these down here. So we're going to isolate this and make one block. So we have our green goose is this way, the red one is this way, the blue one is this way, and square here, and rectangle here. Now what I would do to sew these together, I'd sew the rectangle to the blue goose, and then sew the red goose. Then I'd sew these two together, and then sew it together here. So you can actually just, if you stack these up like this, put all your rectangles here, all your squares here, and all your reds here. And they're all going in the same direction. So you can come here and piece all these, and then piece all these here, piece all this, and then piece them together. And then you have your 4 units done. And we have our 4 units done, and they're all in the same direction that we laid out at the beginning. So we just start rotating the blocks. That's a 1/4 turn, and that's 2 turns, and that's 3 turns. And there's your block. So we'll sew these 2 together, then these 2, and then sew the rows together. Thanks for watching.